Welcome back, everybody. This is NVScienceSlides back with another video, and this time we are talking about direct and indirect proportion. Looking at our list of mathematical skills, we now know how to round off, how to write scientific notation. We can easily convert between units. We know how to change the subjects of the formula, and of course we understand what rate is. So therefore today we are jumping into direct and indirect proportion. And before we get into this video, please make sure to like this video. I will like that you liked it, and then I will like making more slides for you. Remember also to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification icon so that you can get updated whenever I upload a video on this channel. I am also on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you search for NVScienceSlides, you will find more slides there waiting for you. Now let's get into this video. To get you started on direct and indirect proportion, we first need to understand what proportion is. Proportion is basically how quantities or amounts, how they are related to each other. And to make this explanation clearer for you, I'll be using X and Y moving on in this video. Now let's start off with some direct proportion. Direct proportion means that the nature of variations are the same. What that means is that whenever you change Y, X will change in the same way. But in indirect proportion, the nature of variation is inverse, and what that means is when you change Y, X will change in the opposite direction. Now let's get this in more detail. What I mean by this is, in this graph for instance, when Y increases, X also increases, but of course when Y decreases, X also decreases, and that what is meant by the nature of variation is the same. Now let's move on to indirect proportion. For the indirect proportion graph, when Y is decreased, X increases, and of course vice versa, when Y is increased, X decreases. Now that is what is meant by the nature of variation is inverse, because when the other goes up, the other one goes down. Now let's get into some examples so that you can get a proper grasp of direct and indirect proportion. So here I have an example where I got 10 liters of water and it cost 15 Rand. And now I want to know how much 21 liters of water is going to cost. Now in this case, the liters of water is directly proportional to the cost of water. What that means is if I increase the amount of water, I will also have to increase the amount of money that is charged for the water. So that means that Y and X are directly proportional. So in order to solve this equation, I will need to remove the proportional sign, and the way to remove it is that I will need to add a constant, because X and Y are not actually equal, but there is a constant at which they are related by. And if you remember from changing the subjects of the formula, X will need to go into the other side and divide. So now we have K is equal to Y over X. Now this K will always be the same. It is never going to change. I can always change my liters of water to say 40 liters of water, but the cost of the 40 liters of water will always be proportional to the liters of water. So that means that even if I'm asking for 40 liters of water, for 100 liters of water, K will always be the same. And that is how we get that K is equal to Y over X is equal to Y1 over X1 is equal to Y2 over X2 and is equal to Y3 over X3, because K will always be the same regardless of our value of liters of water that we add onto the Y. Now, in order to solve for this, we will now single out the Y1 over X1 is equal to Y2 over X2, because that is a formula that we can actually work with. And in this case, our Y1 can be our 10 liters of water, and our X1 is our 15 rands, which is the cost. And now, so our Y2 will be 21 liters of water, and then we will need to solve for 2X, which will be the cost of the 21 liters that we don't know. When we do a simple cross multiplication, 21 multiplied by 15 will be equal to 10 multiplied by X2. And when we try to solve for that formula, because we want to have X2 on its own on the right hand side, we will then have to say that 21 multiplied by 15 divided by 10 is equal to X2. And when we punch that into the calculator, we get a cost of 31 Rand 50. So it means that 21 liters of water will cost us 31 Rand 50. And that is basically what happens with direct proportion. When we increased our liters of water, the cost of water has also increased. And now let's move on to indirect proportion. With indirect proportion, there is a task that needs to be completed, and in this example, we are building a house. And I have asked 10 science guys to build a house, and they take 5 days. Now I want to know how long it will take 25 science guys to build the same house. In this example, the number of people are are indirectly proportional to the number of days it's going to take. So if I have 10 people and they take 5 days, 25 people should take less days. So the more people I have doing the task, the less number of days it takes them to complete the task. And so in this example, y is indirectly proportional to x. Solving for k, we get that k is equal to yx. Now we can keep chopping and changing the values for x and y in order to give us y1 x1 is equal to y2 x2. Our y values in this case is the number of people, and our x values is the number of days that it takes them. Now to inserting our variables into this formula, we get 10 multiplied by 5 days is equal to 25 multiplied by x2. Now we want to solve for x2, which will be the number of days it will take 25 people to build a house, and we get that it is 10 multiplied by 5 divided by 25, and that gives us x2. Now when we solve for that in our calculators, we get that x2 is actually equal to 2, and that means that it takes 25 people 2 days to build a house. Now I have put the two examples for you side by side in order for you to appreciate the differences between the two and how the two formulas were actually derived. The one example, we had a cost which was proportional to the volume of water that we were selling, and in indirect proportional we had a task that needed to be completed, and the number of days decreased to complete the task when we increased the number of people. Now as you look at these side by side, you can also see that their formulas are different. So ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of direct and indirect proportion. In our next video, we'll be talking about fractions and ratios and basically what that is and how to work with those mathematically to get answers. So bye!